Welcome back to Souhan Unfiltered at SouhanUnfiltered.com. I'm still in Fort Myers, getting to catch up with a lot of really cool people. I want to thank my sponsors really quickly, the local Kieran's Irish Pub and O'Gara's Irish Pub. Yes, Doug, I might have a little drinking problem. Well, it's only a problem if, the driving's the only problem.
It's only a problem.
The drinking's not the problem. It's just the driving's the problem.
If they don't pay, then it's a problem.
No, exactly. So thank you to Kieran's, the local, and O'Gara's Irish Pub. This is the Alive and Social Network. And my guest today is Doug Mientkiewicz up in the press box in Fort Myers. Doug, tell you what, it's been such a pleasure this spring to walk into the clubhouse and see guys like you and Tori and Eddie telling stories. Like I walked in this morning, and Tori starts telling me stories, and I look up, and it's like an hour's gone, and then you come over and you start showing videos of your son. I remember when you guys were the kids.
Right, that's exactly right. I said it's come full circle. I mean, Tori and I started in this clubhouse in 1995 together, and here we are, and Eddie makes it fun because you just don't ever want to walk in the shower alone with him, and everything that turns into San Quentin prison when he comes around. But it makes it fun. From everything we've heard in the past about the clubhouse, I think a lot of the reasons why we were brought back was to, especially Eddie and especially Tori, was to liven it up a little bit and start to bring some of that, that old school chemistry thing back together again, and guys are pulling for each other, and Eddie obviously can do that, and Tori's he's about as charismatic as they come, so so far it's been a great fit.
And as I told you on the way up here, your challenge today is to be funnier than Tori and less disgusting than Eddie.
Well, the less disgusting than Eddie is a cakewalk, but more funny than Tori, that's going to be tough, but it depends on how much time we got.
When did you and Tori first meet?
1995. I was drafted. He was terrible. God, he was awful as a player.
He was bad back then.
He was terrible. It was wow. Everybody talk about how great this Torii Hunter kid was, and I kept watching him. I was like, man, this he's raw. And then he'd do something like once a week where you're like, okay, there it is. Mm-hmm. Like he'd hit a ball off the scoreboard that it went like 3 feet off the ground, or he'd pick a ball up off the wall and throw it right to second and on the line, and then you're like, okay, now I get it. But gosh almighty, to see him keep doing it a year younger than me, and I'm having a hard time hitting ground balls, and he's out there taking infield, and it's so we were talking about our kids today, and you watch little Tori on playing for Notre Dame, and I think back to Jody in the fall league when she was trying to teach little Tori how not to fumble a football, and now he's playing for Notre Dame. So it's we're lucky that we get a chance to meet some pretty quality people here, and to call those guys my friends is an honor.
It is amazing. First time I saw Tori, he literally did not know what a slider was. And now, what's funny is now he feasts on hanging breaking pitches. He just kills it. And back then he didn't even know what a breaking pitch was.
I mean, even I think back to when he, I think 2002, he started the All-Star game, and he came back. I remember me and Corey Koski were sitting in the outfield before spring training started, and Tori was, putting on a show on BP, and we kept sitting there thinking, man, like he's starting to get it. Mm-hmm. And even then, it was nowhere near what it is now. And you watch him now, and even in pitchers BP, these guys now are all throwing 95, 96 miles an hour, and he's hitting line drives to right field and picking up little things that the really good veterans do. And it's hats off to him. I think he's got over 2,000 hits now. I think in the big leagues, and to think how good he is now at 38, 39 years old it's just mind-blowing.
Absolutely. And just to make sure I finish the introduction, Doug Mientkiewicz will be managing at AA Chattanooga this year, managed Class A Fort Myers last year, obviously longtime Twin, also played for several other teams before coming back to the organization. Tell me the story about, it's so interesting because Eddie and Terry Terry Ryan, the Twins general manager, had a falling out, over money when he left. And here he is, he's back, and they're tight. Torii Hunter obviously left when Terry wasn't running things, but he played for two very classy organizations, and yet he came back. You were traded during the middle of a pennant run, and you played for other organizations, worked for the Dodgers, and yet you're back. How does that happen? And how did it specifically happen with you?
I think for the most part we have the Twins are what we came up with. And that was like when you're never. I feel like you're never as close to another organization as you are with the one that drafted you, and I think more than anything else, Terry's understood it. We went through it for the first time when we either got traded, weren't re-signed, or released, whatever it was. Like, it was hard for us. It crushed us because we were, it's the first time we've ever had to deal with that from the baseball side of it. And I know I handled it wrong. I'm sure Eddie thinks back to the way he would handle it. Torrey the same way. It just, when the first time you're smacked in the face in the lamest terms, it's hard to get over. But I think as time goes by, you go other places and you realize, man, that was, you still hold. There's that pain never goes away when the first time you get fired. But at the same time, you think back and be like, man, you know what? No disrespect to the guys I played for after this, but it's just you realize that, what? To Terry's credit, he never BS'd me. He told me the truth. He told me he didn't want to trade me. I remember sitting in Gardy's office, and he's yelling at both of us, and using a lot of language that you don't hear Terry use very often. And he's like, "Damn both of you for putting me in this position." And I think back to the way I handled it, and it was immature. It's not who I am, and I think the great thing about Terry is that he saw through that and saw the good in us to bring us back. And at the end of the day, I truly think they didn't realize how good they had it when they had us here. They didn't have to worry about us. We were brought up to work for the guy to our left and the guy to our right, and win for not only us but win for the city and all that stuff. We felt a severe connection to what was going on around us, and with the whole stadium fight and the contraction stuff, it made a closer team even more close, and when you broke it up, it was like losing a family member.
Well, I remember talking to you right after the trade because obviously you didn't have to leave the Metrodome. You just went down the hall. And publicly you handled it with a lot of class. Behind the scenes you were a little angry?
Extremely. I went to the Red Sox. So, we ended up winning the World Series. And I'd be lying if I didn't have those moments like who got the last laugh. And I remember telling Gardy when I walked out the room, I go, you may not want me now, but come October, you're going to wish I was there. And sure enough, it might have been you that came up to me and said, yep. Gardy wanted me to relay a message. He said you were right. And I said, to me, it doesn't matter what you do in the regular season. Yes, you want to have a great year. You want to do all the good things you have for 6 months, but you can wipe away a bad 6 months in 3 weeks. And it has nothing to do with performance. There's a feeling you have that when playoff baseball is like you're playing on the house's money. And I've always said I was built for that 2-week stretch. And I used to joke around with Billy Miller with the Red Sox saying nobody wants us from April through August, but everybody wants us in September, October, because we're not afraid. We're not going to make mistakes. The situation, we might not get a hit. We may make an error, but it wasn't because the situation was too big for us. And I think that's the way our whole team was. We weren't afraid. We didn't back down. The Yankees beat us, but we weren't afraid of Yankee Stadium. We weren't afraid of Roger Clemens. We weren't afraid of. We used those guys even in the minor leagues when big league pitchers would pitch against us in the minor leagues. I watch it firsthand now, where some of my minor league players, they just cave and they just they want to say they struck out against so and so. We used it as a gauge to how far we are, and we want to make our name for us. For years we made our name battling Pedro in '99 and 2000 and 2001 in Fenway. This is a gauge for us, guys. If we want to get to where we want to get to, we have to put up a fight against guys like this, and I think we did, and it helped us grow. And that's why I think that team won so many games, is because we played with a chip on our shoulders.
I had lunch with Corey Koski the other day because he got inducted into the Canadian Hall of Fame.
There's only 2 people
for comedy.
in that. There's only 2 people in there.
Well, he's half the Hall of Fame. That's pretty cool. Not many people could say that. And he said, the thing that still sticks in his brain after all these years is that ball that bounced into the stands. The double that could have scored a go-ahead run and put you guys up, 2-0 on the Yankees, might have changed the franchise's entire history with the Yankees.
I wasn't there then, though. That was the year I got traded. But you're right. Like I said, that I will say this, as being a Red Sox and looking at the other series, we wanted to play the Yankees. We felt like we matched up better against them. Mm-hmm. That team was, like I said, that ball doesn't bounce there. It's amazing how one little bounce can change everything. From my experience, that same series with the Yankees and the ALCS, we're down 3-1, and Tony Clark hits a ball on the line, and it rolled on top of the right field wall, and it seemed like it hung there for 3.5 minutes.
That. Yeah.
If that ball falls in play, Miguel Cairo scores, and we're down a run.
Yep.
If not, it rolls over the fence. He's got to go back to third. We get a strikeout. Next thing you know, history's. It's amazing how one little thing. It just seemed like, that year especially. I felt like looking back, that team and the team that got swept by the A's was probably the biggest disappointment in Twins history.
Yeah, 2006. They were
had
the best
MVP.
team in baseball.
They had the Cy Young Award winner and the batting champ, and they didn't win a game against arguably the worst playoff team in 30 years.
Yes,
Oakland was awful.
They were,
and that was as a let's say a generation before that team going. Yeah, the guys behind us they're better players individually. They're not us, and I still feel that way. That we were one or two pieces away from winning the whole thing, and going around the league and playing with the Red Sox, playing with the Yankees. They didn't want to play us because we kept coming. It's like we always felt like we were the Rocky in Rocky IV. They kept getting punched, and we kept punching back and punching back. We weren't going to lose. We were going to get beat, and there's something to be said about that in the long run. Is that what you're going to get beat at times, and you can live with that. Just don't give it away. And like I said, we didn't. And that was the one thing too. That group didn't. We cherished every second we had together, and that was what was so neat about that group.
Take me back to the room. You talk about Terry yelling at both you and Gardy. I've had people tell me about that scene, but I've never heard it in great detail. What was it like?
It was eerie because I remember I was talking to you guys, just saying how me and Gardy are going to have to make it work, and the deadline came and passed, and Steve Little tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Gardy needs to see you." And I remember making eye contact with Torrey, and Torrey put his head down because I think he already knew. Mm-hmm. And I went in there, and Gardy was sitting at his desk, and Terry was sitting across from me. And I don't think Gardy and I even looked at each other. I think I was just looking right at Terry. And that's when Terry goes, "Damn you two for putting me in this situation." He's like, "You're being an effing baby. You're being an effing baby, and I'm tired of this." And I go, "Damn you!" And he was like, "Well, we did what you wanted you to do. We traded you to the Cubs." And the instance went off in my mind, going, "Man, I heard Iowa's nice in August because they had Derek Lee," and I was like, "Holy shit! I just got traded. I'm going to be an Iowa Cub. That's going to be great." And he's like, "Then we flipped you to the Red Sox." And at that given moment, I really wanted to get up and walk out of the room. And looking back, the hardest part for me at that given time was walking out in the clubhouse. And it didn't hit me till I was actually in Tampa the next series. We left the Metrodome, and I was like, man, it really hit me now. And the funny thing is, I was the only guy in the Metrodome that didn't win a game that weekend. Yeah. Because we lost to the Red Sox on Friday night, and then the Twins won the next two games. And I was like, all the guys in the Red Sox were giving me shit. They're like, "Can we give him back? He's bad luck, and he's obviously there's one person here that didn't win a game this weekend, and he's on our bus now." So it was welcome to a different, like I say, traveling shit show. That's what the Red Sox were.
Terry really yelled at Gardy like that in front of you?
Oh yeah!
Wow!
Oh yeah!
I mean, I know Terry can be tough on people, but I'd never heard that.
It wasn't. It's something I'll never forget, and it's something I hope I never get talked to like that again by a boss or a future boss.
Man. Oh. Now, when Torrey came on, he told me about Corey Koski popping up in his back seat and almost stabbing him to death or killing him in some other fashion. He told about 8 other funny stories. Eddie told a story I wish he hadn't told, and then told about 8 funny stories. So the onus is on you to come up with your favorite funny story from those years.
I don't know about favorite funny story. I do have people, I tell my players this all the time now about teammates. If we weren't playing well, or even if we were playing well and we were getting chirpy with each other, we literally there's a little room outside the Metrodome clubhouse. It was like a little tiny weight room off the food room. And we'd close all the doors and we'd turn the lights off. And the whole team was in there. And we had 1 minute. 1 minute to swing, kick, grab, punch, throw, whatever you wanted to. But you had 1 minute. But when the 1 minute was over, we were back to a family again. And those were the most fondest 1 minutes of my life because we got to absolutely wear each other out. And then it was like we'd go from that to getting in a circle and having like a dance off like before a game, and like you look up and guys got rug burn, and AJ was always the most beat up because for some reason we put like a glow piece of tape so we knew where he was. But it was those, like I said, that was we were 25 brothers literally, like when we absolutely beat the living shit out of each other. But when the game started, we were all together. I mean, that was just one of the many things we used to do to each other. And Corey he'd put peanut butter in David's underwear.
Yeah, he told that story when I had lunch with him.
Yeah. Eddie's continuous tirades in the shower. I can't believe Eddie didn't get hurt because Eddie's thing was he always wanted to get a running start and dive head first into the shower. And a couple times it was real. Before we knew he was coming, so we'd baby oil the floor so he wouldn't stop. One time in Chicago, I thought he broke his neck. Like he slid into there and he like his neck and his shoulder. And I'm like, and Corey goes, "Can you raise your left arm?" He goes, "I think so." And then he started kicking him. So it was constant. That's how we survived. I mean, that was pretty much. The stuff in the shower that we did, and it was really disturbing. But that stuff now, we'd get the code of conduct will get thrown at us at least 60, 70 times a day. But that's the way we were. That's only when you're with each other 280 days out of the year, you do some pretty dumb shit together. And that was a big. It was, you never wanted to go in the shower alone if Eddie was the last one there. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I've heard many people tell me. I remember I first got to camp and I was talking to Tori and Byron Buxton sitting there, and we were talking about Eddie, and we both at the same time turned up and said, "Don't go in the shower with Eddie." Yeah. And Buck was like, "What?" And it's like, just take our word for this.
Please. So I was like, Eddie, not him. No, not him. Eddie, no, not him.
Oh man, well you got to manage Buxton and Sano. Give me your thumbnail scouting reports on them as players and kids.
Byron is. If you have a daughter, you would love for him to marry her. He really is. Yes, sir. No, sir. Wants to be great. Like things affect him, but in a good way. I mean, I remember, he'll probably kill me for telling the people this, but I remember it was last year, and we were on one of the backfields because we hit on the backfields, and it was after the first time he hurt his wrist, and I could tell it was killing him. And Alan Rail, who was our trainer, was one of the best we've got. He said he ain't right. I'm getting him out of there, and he's like, I'm gonna need your help because he's not gonna come out of the cage. And I pulled him over to the side. I said, "You're done." I said, "Go to the outfield." I walked out to the outfield with him, and I said, "Buck, I can't do this." And he's like, I'm good. I'm like, "You're not good." And I told him, I said, let's go inside. I go, "Look, when you're playing for me in the big leagues, and it's September, and we're in a pennant race, I'll let you play through anything. But I can't let you do this now." And tears came down from his eyes because he was so upset because he couldn't go play. Like, it really, truly affects that man when he can't play. And last year was tough for him, but he grew and he got better and he got through it. And he is, everybody in scouting and baseball today always tries to compare him to somebody that's good. And I don't do that because I don't think that's fair to the guy that you're comparing him to or the kid that you're trying to compare him to. But the one thing that I gauge it off of is I think back to, because everybody talks about what people can't do in the game. I think back to where Torrey was at 20 years old or 21, and it's leap years.
It is.
I mean, he's not even on the same planet as Torrey, and Torrey turned out pretty good. And this kid wants to win first and foremost. He's everything you want in a team that's you want to build around. So I mean, there's nothing he can't do. He hasn't scratched the surface yet. He wants to get there as fast as he possibly can. And that sounds cliche-ish, and everybody wants to, but no, they don't. They don't. And this kid is everything that's right about this new generation. I mean, because they're different. They're different. Mm-hmm. Sano, on the other hand, he is what surprised me the most was managing him was how he wouldn't let his teammates like not play to their highest level. He was the first one to. It was the easiest job I had because I didn't have to say a word. He knew before I even had a chance to open my mouth, which is almost impossible. He already took care of it. And same thing, wants to win. But the best thing you can say about both of them, they're great teammates. And I don't think we've had that around here very often. We lost that fell by the wayside somewhere. That it's mind blowing to me that has happened. But no, Sano is. He's a grown ass man in a 21-year-old's body, 22-year-old's body, and power wise, I don't think I've seen too many better. The ball comes off his bat as good as anybody in the big leagues right now. He's definitely he's come a long way defensively. He's got a cannon for an arm, and he's another one that just wants to. They're not. A lot of people are happy to get to the big leagues. These two want to be stars, and they want to be superstars, and they want to win. That's a unique combination. And the one thing I love about Miggy is that last year when he was hurt, he had the whole GCL around him, and he takes care of guys that look up to him, and he's always on the top step cheering on his guys. I know I had one instance where he struck out and he didn't run the ball out, and it wasn't a light jog. It was a 50%er, and I had to take him out of the game, and he knew it. And I had his agent burn a hole through me the whole game, staring at me. Miggy sat on the top step and never stopped cheering for his teammates. And he looked at me with like disappointing eyes. I said, "You know what you did? It's over." And he sat there without anybody saying anything, cheered for his teammates. I think that spoke volumes to me that he grew up a little bit, and it never happened again. So it's been an honor to watch them both. I see them now in big league camp, and they look like they belong here, and that's a positive thing.
Yeah, talking about the ball coming off his bat, even that single up the middle Sano hit against the Gophers the other night. That was just a laser.
Yep, and that's I hate like Buck and those guys. That's their age group. And
Right.
That's when you think about it. It's easy to look at them in big league camp and see them against 30, 35-year-olds, but when you put them up against guys that are his age, it's like they're not even on the same wavelength. It's crazy. It's like we're looking around going, well, I think the Gophers are older than the team we threw out there, and that's a good thing for us. And I said that for all of our guys. I mean, I've been so impressed with how comfortably respectful our minor league guys have been here in camp, and that means we're starting to do some things right again back on the other side.
Yeah, I see you and TK out there always working together. When did you guys kind of figure out a way to have a good relationship?
I think it was that phone call we had. We had a 2.5-hour phone call when I was in Salt Lake, and we kind of hashed it out right then and there. And I through the Todd Walkers and all the guys that didn't see eye to eye, I just realized that, hey man, I got one shot at being a big leaguer, and no one's going to deter that. And we had a long conversation that wasn't real friendly to each other, and I think at the end of the day, I came back in 01, obviously a different player, but I had a different mindset. I wasn't afraid anymore, and I made a pact with myself saying, if I go down my way. I'll never have that question 3 years from now going, I wonder what if, like Todd has done his whole life. Knowing Todd as well as I do, that I said I'm not going to do that, and I said, you know what, if I can't hit in the big leagues, I'm not the only one that's ever failed at the major league level. So, but I really truly believe I can do this, and I'm going to do it. And from there on out, it was, what I think. I think TK, there's a method to his madness. He pushed buttons on purpose to get you to react. And you think back to the guys that reacted to him, me, Torrey, Eddie, LaTroy. We've all had our conflicts, but when he proved that when he felt in his eyes you were becoming a man and becoming a major league man, he'd run through a brick wall for you. And I really truly felt like through all the years, I said this for years, if TK would have been our manager, I would have been a Twin a hell of a lot longer. And that's no disrespect to Gardy. It's just that's the way it was. He trusted, and like once you earn his trust on the field, there's no one that would replace you, and that's, and I just, it's funny how he just walks on the field and it happens. I mean, even Molly. I remember my first year coming back, we're both hitting ground balls to the minor league guys, and TK came on the field and we heard his voice and we both we rolled over 2 balls out of play, and I'm like, I'm a grown man. It's still worry. He's like, don't worry, it happened to me too. I'm like, well, you're a fucking Hall of Famer, he's like, it just happens. So that's the way he is. He's always has that fear never leaves you, and I truly believe that fear is a good thing in teaching, and it gets your attention, and your attention to detail. Nothing gets left unturned, and that's. Like I said, I've taken a little bit of everybody that I've played for, and there is a lot of TK in the way I do things, just because of I've seen it work. And with the way the kids are today, they need somebody to be like, I'll play the bad guy, that's fine. If you hate me, like the old Herb Brooks, if they hate me, they're not worried about what's going on, and it bonds them together. And if it's me against you, that's fine. We're on the same team, but you know what? I've tried to provoke reactions out of my guys on purpose. Just because I want to see, a lack of a better term, I want to make their balls drop because they're young kids and they need, I said, who play baseball? Who plays Major League Baseball? Grown men play Major League Baseball. Kids don't make it, and that gets weeded out quick. And I said, the one thing you will do when you play for me is you will be mentally tougher than when you walked in that door the first time. And it's worked. And it's like, I always say, if it's not broke, don't fix it. So.
I saw your team down here last year. You had, some really interesting prospects, even other than Buxton Sano. Who impressed you? Who would you like to rave about?
A lot of them. Tyler Grimes. He's a guy that kind of no one really talks about, but he was my MVP last year. He played third. He played second. He played left. He played center. He played right. He caught. He almost pitched after catching 18 innings one night.
Wow.
No one's really worked with him offensively, and we're getting to where we're starting to do that now. I'm not saying he's going to be a bona fide major leaguer, but he can play the game a long time. Travis Harrison was a first rounder for us. Hitting wise, he'll surface somewhere in the big leagues for sure. Obviously, we had Adam Brett Walker. He's got probably the most power I've ever seen, raw power out of anybody I've ever seen in the game. And big boy, 6'4", 240. I had Polanco was arguably, between him and Eddie, to me, are the best hitters we have in our system. He just finds a way to get the barrel to the ball. He's simple. It's short. And at the end of the day, like I said, I had better, let's say, uber prospects my first year. I had a much closer team the next year. And that team has already won 2 rings in only 3 years. And they have a lot of similarities to the group we had. Like, if you start pulling them out one by one, they're not very good, but you put them all together and it just works. Nico Goodrum was another one who changed positions. They had a tough year. I mean, I at some nights I was playing 6 or 7 guys out of position.
Mm-hmm.
And at some nights it looked like the Bad News Bears, and some nights they looked like, us in the 2000s catching everything. So, I really enjoyed last summer, not because we won, but just to finally see a group of younger players really care about each other. Max Kepler came a long way last year. I know he had struggled in the first half. I think he grew up a ton last summer. And I remember we were facing Tyler Glass now in the playoffs, and that name will resurface here pretty quick. He's a 19-year-old kid who throws about 100 from the Pirate system. Starter, crazy breaking ball, and we faced him in the playoffs, and Max hit a 99-mile-an-hour fastball off the wall in right field, slid into third, and fist pumped. And I remember looking at him going, "It's nice to see your balls drop finally. It's only September." And he looked at me and was like, "Yeah." And I saw anger come out of him for the first time, and I was like, "Okay, that's what a major leaguer's about right there." Yeah. You have to have you have to do something aggressively, because if you watch Max Kepler take BP and you didn't know who he was, you'd think that's a 10-year major league vet because he hits the ball so hard. So. But I said all of them, from Barrios and Taylor Rogers. And I tell you what, the arms we have coming are about as good as it gets. I said, for an A-ball bullpen, after the 5th inning, I didn't have one guy that threw under 97 miles an hour.
Wow.
And Birdie's he's a 2-pitch mix guy. He should, if he stays healthy, he will be in the big leagues at the end of the year, without question. I mean, it's that good. It's that dominant. It's 100 with a breaking ball, with an attitude to boot, and he's got everything you want at the back end of a bullpen. And Jake Reed, we got a bunch of guys that are coming. Hats off to our guys last year in the scouting because they got some arms, and they're relievers. So what? Everybody has a 100, and we've got them all over the place. And at the end of the day, we're trying to push for urgency, and the guys that are coming are hungry, and the system now reminds me of our group. They want someone's ass, and they want someone's job, and that's what this game's all about. And don't get too complacent because the next group's coming.
You managed here last year. You're going to be managing Double-A next year. It's pretty obvious that the Twins wanted you working with Sanoa and Buxton, the top prospects, as they move through the organization. How hungry are you? How impatient are you to get a major league managing job?
I don't want. I won't say hungry. Yeah, I want to do it, but I think this past year and going through what I went through with the interview process, I definitely want to do this now. I wasn't 100% sure, let's say last year at this time, but seeing the guys that are running teams now, there's no doubt in my mind. It's not a matter of if, it's when. And, hopefully someday soon someone will see what I bring and back me and give me the shot. And, if it's here, great. If it's not, it's going to happen sooner than later. If I feel like my teams that have a different set of rules than everybody else here, I expect more out of them. There's no question about it. I always say to my teams, that it doesn't matter where you start. When you raise that bar becomes the standard. And then we try to go above it, and I won't let you go below it. And I'm very, 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 very hard on them. I don't settle for complacency. And I think that's – I always say the kids, they hate discipline, but they crave it. And, I learned a lot last year because my guys were so fun to be around. And I loved each and every one of them as an individual. But at times they mistake my kindness for weakness. And so I had to pull back from that side of it, let's say the player side of it, and become more of a, lack of a better term, Hitler-esque, where it's like, this is it. There's no questions. It's my way or no way. And to their credit, they got out of all the ass chewings I've ever given, whether it's my wife, my son, my parents.
Hold on, I get a feeling Jody might chew your ass more than the other way around.
Yes, it does. But I had a few that were pretty good, that were memorable. But that came across. There were two of my best ones I ever given, and I remember literally where at the end of it, after we won the whole thing, we all hung out in a room, and I had 10 or 15 guys say that was the best one, and they imitated it, and it was really good. but my point was it got across, and I had them start calling each other out on stuff, and I was like, okay. And I remember looking at my coaches, Gary Lucas and Jim Dwyer, about 2 weeks left in the season. I looked at them and I go, I think our job's done. I think we did it. I think they're mentally where they should be, where they're pissed off all the time. And when they go on the field, like they physically want to beat down the other group. And I was like, no matter what happens, they felt like they weren't going to lose. And that was the hard part during last summer. We'd be down 5 or 6 runs, and they'd quit. And I can't handle that because they're good enough to put a touchdown up and 1 out. And they would just quit, and they would sulk. And I'd see them starting worrying about their own numbers. And I don't stand for that. Like, this is together a thing. When your brother's in the corner sulking, there better be 20 of you guys going to pick him up. And it changed over the course of the summer, and to watch that work, it gave me confidence to say, like, okay, I think my way is working, and I think that's what's great about this job is that you have to evolve with the group you have. people always ask, what's your style? I'm like, well, I got to see my team I get first. So that's why I think having managerial experience in the minor leagues is huge, because you have to evolve around the group you have and learn to adapt to them. And I feel like I'm ready, and I feel like I'm chomping at the bit to. I told Terry this at the end of one of my interviews. I said, I was fortunate and very lucky to play as long as I did as a player, but I was born to do this. I was born to lead. I was born to manage. And I truly believe that, and I think this is my calling. This is what I was made to do. And hopefully someday soon I get a crack at it.
Tell me about your boy.
He is the man. He's Steele is 9 now already. My, how time flies. He pitched his first game last night. I drove home 3.5 hours to watch it, and he gave up 1 hit. It's like 10 strikeouts and 4 2/3, just like that. He's a hell of a soccer player. He's an okay basketball player, but baseball, he's coming around, and it's I tell you what, I don't know how parents do it. I don't know how parents of pitchers do it. I don't know how parents in general do this. I'm still learning all this stuff, but I was sweating my ass off last night, so nervous. And it was nice. My mom and dad were there. They watched him, and they have a 60-pitch pitch limit, and he came out after 4 2/3, and so I could finally exhale, and I ran down to my dad, and I just high-fived him, and I looked at him right now, I go, how the hell did you do this for 20 years? Because I am absolutely emotionally spent right now. But I tell you what, there's nothing better than to watch your boy out there. It was, that's just great. Go back to our group. I'm texting Chad Allen he's texting me during the game. Tori's like, send me video. AJ's sending me video. It's like, and they're all thoroughly invested, and they care, and like that doesn't happen everywhere. So that goes back to, I know Twins fans are tired of hearing about all the, we read some of the stuff that's being said, and we always keep bringing back. We didn't just bring back Twins, we brought back the right Twins, and this is not a country club anymore. That country club shit's out. Like that don't stand here no more. Like that's not how this works. And the same thing goes for players as it goes for coaches. If they don't do their job, there's 4 or 5 guys that want their job. So the competition doesn't stop. And we're not settling for anything less than back to where it should be. People give us credit for having a great minor league system. Well, we should. We picked 3rd every freaking year. That doesn't mean anything. Like when we start getting the majority of our middle of the road minor leaguers to the big leagues, then we're doing our job. Don't pat me on the back. That's not what this is about. It's about them, and it's about getting it through to them. And you know what? We want to build a juggernaut here. This isn't a one-hit wonder. Like this shit, we want it right, and we want it right. If you're not on, you're going to fall off the bus, and the next guy's going to pass you by. So we're trying to create urgency with coaches, front office, everybody. We're trying to get this back to where it should be, and they're bringing back the guys that were passionate about it.
You called A.J. Pierzynski Uncle A.J. this morning when you were talking about him. He's such a fascinating figure, and he was so important to your group. What is it that drives him? What is it that makes him who he is?
I personally think growing up without a dad, having a mom that wasn't exactly the most motherly woman to him. Not that she wasn't. Every mother's loving, but AJ had it rough, and and a lot of it, like I said earlier, when you get fired for the first time, that boy's always played with a chip on his shoulder, and what drives him. I joke around with him, there's no way you feel pain, because you can't, because you're still doing this, and he's come such a long way to watch him go from where we were on these backfields to now, and he still gets a bad rap for the way he is, but he's come so far. He's such a great dad. He's been the best of friend I could ever possibly ask for. He texted me this morning at 6:30, asked me how Steele did.
Wow.
And that stuff goes a long way with me. And like I said, to keep doing it as long as he has, and to do it at such a high level, I'll tell you what. I mean, he wants to play forever, and I think he has the body and the ability to do it. And him leaving here, it gutted him, and he wants to. He thoroughly enjoys coming back and kicking the Twins' ass, and that's David does the same thing. And whatever. Look, you have to have some kind of extra chip that no one else has to be LaTroy still pitching, to be David still doing what he's doing, to still do what AJ does, to still do what Torrey does. There's things that go along the line that made them who they are, and to continue to keep doing this, there's a inner drive that not many people have. That's why they're still doing it. That's why they're as good as they are. And Terry asked me who my staff would be, and I named AJ, I named LaTroy, I named Eddie, and people saw it as like I was bringing my friends back. I'm like, they're my friends, but I trust them, and two, there's no bullshit in them, and that's what this game has too much of, too much hot air, too much bullshit, too much, no, it's because I trust them, because I know that my job, I wouldn't have to worry about taking care of a bunch of guys playing cards in the pen, or not getting their ass out there when the national anthem, or not having, talking back. Like, that wouldn't stand. And that's why I want them. That's why I will take those guys when I get my manager's job. They will be on my staff because I trust them, and there's going to be no bullshit.
This has been great stuff. I'm going to hit you with some quick hitters, and I'll let you get back to work. Favorite TV show?
Into the Blue.
Ooh.
It's a fishing show.
Of course.
Imagine that.
Of course. How about that? Favorite movie?
Wow. Favorite movie?
Or a few. Doesn't
Scarface.
Have to be one. The Scarface. The classic Miami gangster movie. That's awesome. Favorite either artist or...
Metallica.
Okay, cool. I didn't know that. And favorite moment in baseball?
Gold medal.
Yeah, still, huh?
Yep.
Even more than the World Series.
I said gold medal. Gold medal or watching my son pitch. That last night was pretty cool. That was as good as it gets.
Wow. Well, let's end on that. That's perfect. I appreciate it, Doug. Thank you. That's Doug Mientkiewicz. We'll be managing at AA Chattanooga. He'll have Buxton Snow for at least a little bit this summer.
Maybe.
Maybe. And I want to thank my sponsors again, the local Irish pub, Kieran's Irish Pub, both in downtown Minneapolis, O'Gara's Irish Pub in St. Paul. And this is SouhanUnfiltered on the Alive and Social Network. We'll be back soon with more stuff. Thanks.